So yesterday I said I was going to get some more of these knife videos out of the way. I've had a bunch of these in a bag and just separated the ones out that I've done shorts on and haven't done full reviews. So I'm just kind of grinding in, trying to get some of these done. I've been using them off and on, taking them on kayak trips and all kinds of other things this summer, and just using them in the backyard and EDC it for a few days or a couple weeks or whatever. And it's just, I've had some of these for months, and you've seen some of them a long time ago, as far as like even 3 or 4 months ago, and then just get stuck in a backlog of other stuff that I was just like, oh, I'm more enamored with this, I'm gonna use this and do a video on. So these are these TOPS clones, these Brakimo clones, and you can get these on AliExpress or friggin' Temu. You can even get one that's CV Life branded on Amazon. So they're out there all over the place, but these are obviously the clones. But and I even have another one that's got a even branded, you know, so it's a bona fide imposter for sure, with the logo and all that jazz. Just wanted to check them out, and I kind of consider these a heavy duty bushcraft knife, because it's definitely got that bushcraft style blade to it, but it's long enough to baton with, but it's kind of got that feel almost like a bigger Mora type blade, but it does have a micro bevel. I kind of wish they wouldn't have done that. I'm probably going to put these on the work sharp eventually and put a convex edge on them, because I think that's sick, and you can get them razor sharp. These showed up pretty sharp, but I've used them quite a bit, but we're going to put them through their paces, and I'm just going to let you know what I think about them. So right out of the chute, the ads say that these are $10.95. I have no clue if they're $10.95 or not, but you're looking at a pretty substantial chunk of metal in a bushcraft format with a good strong tip on it. And I'm actually going to do some tip tests on this one, just because I think that it can handle it. Other knives, you should already know some of them aren't built for that. The scabbards on these really suck. I do not like the little screw in there with the you can see a little thread inset in there, and it's supposed to like pivot, and I've glued one of these. Not really worth the crap. I don't really like it, so I'll probably use these as a template and make those out of make some scabbards out of leather for these. You got the G10 scales, tan G10 with the, I don't even know if a bow drill divot in G10 will work very good. I may have to test that out at some point. Obviously not the real deal though, just but I've had it out and beat on it and batoned with it and stuff. So we're gonna put them through their paces and just have a little fun. So I spent the better part of my lunch break putting an edge on this, and because I've had these knives for months, had them on kayak trips, batoned up a bunch of wood, done a lot of cutting and stuff, just having it out and, you know, EDCing it for an afternoon here and there, and, you know, just putting it in the rotation just for the hell of it. So I had to put some edges on both of these just because I used them. So they're not fresh factory edges on it, but it made pretty quick work of the rope here, which I'm happy with on that. Try the black one out on a little bit of rubber tubing here, the high pressure line crap that's just some throwaway stuff from work. And the sides of this tubing here is particularly grippy, so it kind of wanted to grip it, but it had no problem cutting through. Like I said, these are just kind of working edges on them. They're not crazy sharp. You couldn't shave your arm with it, but it takes an okay edge. It's not bad. And like I said before, I do not have a clue if this is actually $10.95 like the ad says, but as long as it'll take an edge, I really don't care. So a lot of people hate the clone blades, and I get it, but they're affordable, so people like myself on the budget side like to buy them, and I guess it's not really that affordable if I'm buying multiples, so I'm a little bit hypocritical in that sense, but I like testing this stuff, and I like putting legitimate time in with budget tools to see how it's actually going to hold up. So these, I would say, several months of use, and what I do in this video is going to show the the abilities of this tool and its usefulness at a sub $20 price point. And like I said, as I narrate this, I know what happens later in this video, so stay tuned for that. And I just don't feel like it's a deal breaker with what happens later. As far as just a budget tool, I think they've held up pretty well, really. And they take a decent edge. They hold an edge all right. They're what you could expect for sub $20. And I honestly think you're getting a pretty decent deal out of it. The scabbards freaking suck. But if you have a little bit of leatherworking skill at all, you can order you a piece of veg tan and make a simple scabbard and wet form it and have something that's pretty good quality, and just seal it with mink oil, spray some olive oil on your knife, and you got a food grade seasoned blade in a leather freaking scabbard. So I mean, I don't mind making knives into projects, especially like Big China, which some of you have seen in other videos. This is doing all the tasks, putting points on stuff. You can baton through some wood, which we do that a little bit later too. It does all the things. It doesn't excel at any of them, particularly beyond anything else on the market, but it is on par with pretty much any budget production knife on the market. Here we do a little bit of feather sticking and just shaving some of the bark off there, and do a little fire starting with this, because I think that's one of the more important tools of a camp knife. And this is sort of a bushcraft / camp knife in my opinion. And so, having the fire prep ability is, I think, just one of those requirements. If it's not good at that, then it's not a camp knife. If it's not good at cutting up meat and stuff like that, then it's probably not a good camp knife either. But I would clean a deer with this. It wouldn't bother me at all. And I may use one of these later this deer season after I do the Work Tough Gear Steadfast, because that's the next one that's going to get sank into a deer. But you might see this one make an appearance if I have a particularly successful deer season. Overall, in terms of budget tools, yeah, you're going to want to get a scabbard, and you're going to want to have some sharpening tools, because you're going to have to sharpen this thing up some. It comes razor sharp, but you're at the same time, when you're actually putting in work with a tool, then you're going to have the tools to sharpen it and get acquainted with how to do that. Now, you may want to reprofile it, which I plan on doing with one of them. Actually, both of them at this point, especially with the little broken tip that you'll see later. I'm going to kind of change the tip shape of that and just use it as an opportunity to turn it into a project. As far as, I'm reviewing this as a $20 knife, essentially, and I think that it's worth that. It does all the knife things, and all the camp knife things, and the bushcraft things, if you want to do that. You could totally cross-grain baton this. I just didn't really choose to do that in this video, but there is batoning in this video. So ultimately, what you're getting here in this review is a hard use review of a clone of a TOPS knife. Now, none of the performance of this should reflect on the TOPS blades at all. So this is general Chinese mystery metal, and them copying your shit, essentially, which they do with everything. But she makes a good fire, and this is just putting in some time with it, guys. I think that it'll definitely hold up for the sub 20 price point. If you're buying from CV Life, they want like $30 for it, but I wouldn't recommend getting it from CV Life unless you want the OD green, which is kind of cool, but I'm not paying $30 for it when I can get this for between $15 and $20. So I wanted to do a little bit of batoning with this, and decided this was the piece of wood in the pile that I was going to use. And this is some old hard, like oak or something. It's obviously silvered in the sun. So this stuff's old and dry, and this, if it wasn't crumbling, it was just hard as hell. This stuff was pretty hard to baton through, and with the G10 handles on this knife, that handle took like an amazingly rough amount of shock doing the batoning. Now, I wouldn't really try to baton this much out in a survival situation. I would be busting up smaller stuff, if at all, because you can snap most stuff with your foot. It's not that big a deal. Batoning is not a requirement of a knife. I just like the durability and the test and the process of doing it. So I beat on this until chunks of it fell off and crumbled and whatever else. And then I eventually got sick of it and called it quits. But it definitely wised me up to how much shock comes down the handle on that. And I don't know if it would be different with some like micarta scales or if it would be the same. I think it would probably be the same. Maybe some like rubber, like the ones on the Schrade knives. Those things really don't have a whole lot of shock, like the SCHF9 and some of those other blades. Those rubber handles do a lot to save your hand from getting beat up doing hard batoning. Yeah, and that thing got stuck in there. Do a little tip testing here. Just throwing at the stump here, just for the hell of it. And then we're going to move over to some prying tip tests. And this is where the money shot is. And I break the tip off of this. But I did want to give this a test. It's a pretty substantial chunk of steel for a bushcraft camp knife. I don't know the exact thickness, but the tip is a pretty sturdy built, thicker tip, and I wanted to see what it would do. And I was supremely confident that this wasn't going to break. But as you will see, it definitely does. And we're about to send the tip of this knife into the graveyard here pretty quick. And the money shot. And I was extremely surprised when that happened, just due to how durable it looked and how thick the blade stock is. And if I'm honest, I really don't feel like that this is some huge indictment of this. I think that a lot of American-made blades would bust off. And I posted a short of this, and a person asked if I thought that a TOPS would break off. And I don't know. If I had a TOPS, I don't know that I would want to pry on something that expensive to test that theory. But it might. I don't know. I think most TOPS knives are $10.95, and this is probably like $4.40 or D2 or some kind of crap for the little Chinese copies. But still a pretty decent blade. They hold a good edge. I think it's a fantastic value for under $20. The scabbards suck, so plan on getting a scabbard made or modifying this. The belt clip sucks. The rotation thing on it sucks. And in my experience, you can't glue them back into place very well. So probably plan on getting a Kydex made or making one out of leather. I still think they're pretty slick knives and definitely a sweet, solid budget option. Just don't pry with the tip on it. And so in the end, I modified the tip of the black one to just be a usable knife, and I may do some more modifications. I'm also taking the micro bevel off and just making it a convex edge. But just broke out the little Harbor Freight belt sander and put a little time in with it and tried to go slow and make sure it doesn't get too hot. But I actually kind of like the look of the tip on that. So that's just a little custom job after the breakage. I think that it's okay to do that to a knife too. I think cheap budget knives like this should become projects for some people. I mean, it's kind of how you hone your skills on fixing things and just all around preparedness in general. But there you have it. I think those are decent budget options for bushcraft tools for preppers, you know, an under the seat knife for your truck, whatever. I don't think you can beat that for $20. But if you're a premium buyer, this probably isn't going to tickle your fancy. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.